What's up, YouTube? Cholula's Comics back again for my 1 week hiatus of Wolverine Wednesdays. I wasn't here last week. Apologies for that, you guys, but I'm back with episode 5 of Wolverine Wednesdays. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Rag718. He's a relatively new YouTuber who shows off a ton of great books that he has in his collection, ton of slab books that he has in his collection. And he also did a really cool video for me recently, shouting out my Wolverine Wednesdays and showing off some awesome books that were all in the Wolverine title series. And he also, the best part of the video was actually, he made a request. He was asking me to give my synopsis on the books that he showed. Rag, I'm going to do my best to go ahead and get on that real soon. These videos take a little bit longer than I originally thought they would, but trust me, I'm going to get to those real soon for you. And I really appreciate you shouting me out and the fact that you enjoy the videos, brother. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to that video and to Rag718's channel in the description below. So all you guys, make sure to check him out, sub him up, cool dude. And yeah, we'll be looking forward to that. So anyways, you guys, this week I'm bringing you my synopsis on books 9 and 10 as introduced in Wolverine title series volume 2. Once again, these are some books that I would love to have slabbed and in my collection. Reason being is issue 9 gives us some insight into Wolverine's backstory. And once again, we get an awesome second back cover, which is part of that Wolverine gallery. And this artist was Kieran Dwyer. Kieran Dwyer or Kyron Dwyer? I think it's Kieran. I'm going to go with Kieran. So really cool back cover art there. And actually, I really enjoy the story. I can't wait to get into it with you guys. And issue number 10, we get the long-awaited first in-title appearance of Wolverine's most infamous and deadly of enemies. He's gone by notable aliases of Der Schlachter, which is German for the butcher. He's gone by the Slasher. He's gone by El Tigre, which is Spanish for the tiger. But you guys know him as Sabretooth. And once again, we got another great Wolverine gallery piece in the back. This additional back cover is done by Kent Williams. So just, again, you guys, another awesome book to get slabbed in the collection. One of these days, I can't wait to get this book slabbed. So anyways, you guys, that's enough out of me for right now. Let's check out the stories and let's get to these awesome books. Issue 9 is titled Promises to Keep. Although this is a one-shot storyline, this is one of those key storylines that highlights the content of Wolverine's character, and it shows you just what kind of man he is. Wolverine remembers a promise that he made to someone who affected him very deeply in his life. He remembers how he made good on his word. Because remember, you guys, in the words of the immortal Scarface, all I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. The beginning of this book introduces us to a gang of vile and majorly uncouth baddies who seem to be on the run from something, as they're trying to get lodged in this rural backwoods swampland. While we get names for the entire group, Malone seems to be the leader and most menacing member of the group. A nice detail and nod to true Wolverine fans, the writers and artists try to trick you into thinking that Wolverine is about to make an appearance sooner rather than later in the book, when we see the now infamous onomatopoeia for snicked. Or you know what, better yet, let me just do this. So we see the word snicked spelled across the second panel on page 1, but we quickly find out that it's just the switchblade from one of the bad guys, and he's trying to use the blade basically to coerce the innkeeper into putting some hustle into getting the group of villains their room. As the group makes their way through the woods into the lodgings, we get a taste of just how on edge they are, as they jump at the sound of every snapped twig and at the sight of every moving shadow. The group starts to talk about how far they've come, the people that they've left behind, the people that they've killed, and they begin to allude to this menace that they believe is chasing them down. Just when they start to lull themselves into a false sense of security, we see the all too famous words once again. And then boom, you thought they forgot? Splash page. Another great one where Wolverine is using his brute force and his unbreakable claws to reduce the wall to rubble and slash through the first of the villains in the group of bad guys. Of course, we can't forget the title of our upcoming story, Promises to Keep, as presented by Stan Lee, and the talented team that brought you the story as written by Peter David of the Incredible Hulk fame, art by Gene Colan, letters by Bill Oakley, colors by Mark Chiarello, edited by Bob Harris, and editor-in-chief Tom DeFalco. As Wolverine finally descends on the group, he takes one down, while the rest of the group draws down and fires on him. Nobody knows if they hit him for sure, but the group decides to take turns standing guard all night waiting for him to return. Malone, the leader, ends up falling asleep during his turn on watch duty, and he dreams about their first run-in with the menace that is attacking them now. He remembers it stalking them and picking them off one by one during the night. In the dream, Wolverine, like all good hunters, takes his time stalking his prey. He waits till one is alone and takes care of him quickly and cleanly. Still in the dream, Malone remembers calling out to one of his colleagues, yelling, "Schmitty, you okay? This isn't funny, man." Wolverine replies, "No, it isn't. I could kill you all now, but the time isn't right. So start running." Just then, Malone is woken up in real life, and he's called out for sleeping on the job. Just as Malone is in the middle of arrogantly pointing out that the man under the sheet, the same man Wolverine killed in the first few pages of the book, was still dead, we get another as Wolverine pops his claws and rises from under the sheet where they thought their fallen comrade was laying, and really mind fucks the shit out of these guys. He turns to them and asks, "Remember Iraq?" And he makes his escape by crashing through the closed window. As the men run out after Wolverine, they find yet another one of their teammates dead in their path. Emotions start to really run high as Malone's man mentions that it's the 5-year reunion to where last in Iraq. Malone tells them to shut the hell up and keep moving. We get a flashback of Malone and his men. They were a group of mercenaries hired by Iraqi militants to help take over the American embassy. They had demands of the Iraqi president, but were caught in a standstill when they took over the embassy. Malone and his men took many hostages and bargaining chips waiting for their demands to be met. An especially sick fuck, Malone passed the time by terrorizing one hostage in particular. She was a nun, and Malone would take turns beating her, playing Russian roulette, and bringing her to tears, thinking he was gonna shoot her in the head at any moment, and sick enough to say, by forcing himself on her over and over. Soon enough, though, Malone's band was finally dispelled by a team of American commandos. Malone, however, managed to get the drop on one of the GIs, stole his fatigues, and snuck out the back door. As Malone snaps out of his flashback, he and his group find themselves on the bank of a river and end up stealing a canoe from a poor old man. Just as the group thinks they're making a 30-mile-an-hour rip-roaring rapid getaway, and just like that, the group of 5 is now down to just 2 people. One more left dead in the water. One of the last 2 men thinks he can save his own hide by calling out Wolverine and letting Wolverine know that he would do the dirty work for him. He's going to kill him as Wolverine lets him live. But just as he's going to turn his gun on Malone, Malone shoots the man dead. Now it's just Malone and Wolverine. Malone runs through the woods along the riverbed to make sure that no one gets a drop on him. He runs for miles and miles, thinking how he would even settle for being saved by a cop at this point. Anything just to escape. Just then, Malone hits a dead end, and Wolverine jumps out in front of him. To this point, Malone knows that Wolverine is pissed about Iraq, but he doesn't know exactly why. Wolverine explains that there were a few Canadians at that embassy, and while the Americans sent in their strike team, the Canadians decided to call in Weapon X. Which, you guys, this is really cool because up until now, this is actually the first mention of Weapon X, or even the Weapon X program in the title series. Malone questions that there could be Canadians at the American embassy, but Wolverine confirms that there were, including a Canadian nun. Wolverine takes the time to spell out and recall in great detail Malone's past sins. Wolverine says, "Yeah, you marched her out every day, pretended you'd kill her. Not yet, you'd say, and then you'd use her. When I found her, she was dying. Caught a bullet in the crossfire. One civilian casualty, something the military calls acceptable losses. Before she died, though, she told me what you'd done to her. And this woman, whose life was built on love and forgiveness, she said, promise me. Promise me you'll make him suffer like I suffered." The last thing she heard before she died were the words, "I promise." Malone interjects, "But I didn't kill her." And Wolverine says, "You did worse. You did more. You destroyed her spirit, her soul, to the point where there was no forgiveness left in her for you." Malone goes on to make a fatal mistake. He calls out Wolverine and says, "And now you will kill me to keep your promise, won't you? That'll make you happy, wouldn't it?" and he blasts himself in the head and falls over the cliffs to his death. And we get one last glimpse into Wolverine's head when he says, "Killing you wouldn't make me happy. Maybe you think you won. Fine. Makes no difference to me, because taking a life doesn't bring me joy. Hardly anything does, except innocence. Because I've seen so little of it, I've learned to cherish it. And all you knew was how to destroy it." Now, I don't know about you guys, but for a guy who often gets labeled as, the one with the berserker rage, those are pretty deep, insightful words. Peaceful words, even. And the last page ties the story together perfectly. It shows that the entire story was in fact a memory. Wolverine was actually present day Patch, most likely hanging out at the Princess Bar and reminiscing about the past. When the gal at his side asks if the nun was avenged by him, he says, "A man like me, more of a loner, more vicious, more lots of things." And that just kind of shows that he's grown since then, and he's getting better. He's making ground towards his humanity every day. Then he tells the bartender, "Yeah, bring me another one, darling." And what's more human than wanting to drown your sorrows in drink? So that brings issue 9 to a close, and finally we have a nice look here at the back cover art. Wolverine Gallery, again done by Kieron Dwyer, Kieron Dwyer. I had to spell it because I couldn't pronounce it, and I'd never seen that name before. This brings us to issue 10, titled 24 Hours. Key issue in the Wolverine storyline, in that we get an early glimpse of Wolverine and Sabretooth before they even really seem to truly know one another. Later on, however, we find out that they had known each other for quite a while, and it's actually somewhat of a tradition that Sabretooth hunts down Wolverine, on his birthday, in order to make his life a living freaking hell, you guys. But trust me, we'll get into that a little bit more later on. Again, book 10 is titled 24 Hours, presented by Stan Lee. Starring, of course, Wolverine, written by Chris Claremont, artist John Buscema and Bill Sienkiewicz, letterer Ken Bruzenak, colorist Mike Rockowitz, editor Bob Harris, and timekeeper Tom DeFalco. Now that the normal Wolverine team is back together, you see that they're having fun again with Tom DeFalco's title, which is pretty funny. Really quickly and up front, you guys, let me just, for the way this book is laid out, it's hard to give a synopsis of it if you're not reading it, because it actually jumps around a lot. It goes from flashback to present day to present day to flashback, so on and so forth. So try to keep up. I did my best here. So just a quick disclaimer. As always, pretty cool splash page here once again. Opens right up with action. Couple of barroom brawlers who are doing what they do best. These guys will be an important part of the story right at the very end, so don't forget about these guys. Wolverine talks about how some fights are just unavoidable, but he leaves the illusion that tonight is an especially ominous night indeed. This is another one of those flashback books where Wolverine is remembering something that happened a long time ago. That actually kind of seems to be Wolverine's bread and butter. That and his berserker rage, of course, but basically he's flashing back to a time where it shows him busting into a bar, much like the one that he's sitting at in present day, holding his dead lover, Silver Fox. He brings her body up to the bar as he accuses Sabretooth of having done the deed. Sabretooth, the ever-opportune villain, doesn't deny the deed, and in fact tells Short Stuff to leave before he's the next victim. One of the local barflies tries to warn Wolverine about Sabretooth and let him know that what he's fighting for isn't really worth it. Because after all, she says, "For pity's sake, Logan, she's just an Indian," which seems pretty racist right there, but I mean, it's a great sign of the times nonetheless. We cut back to present day with Wolverine breaking up the fight at the bar. After dispelling of the two barroom brawlers, Wolverine starts to make his way through the city and reflect on his past with Sabretooth. He could never figure out why Sabretooth hated him so much. We get a quick cut back of the past and their first fight scene once again. Wolverine explains how he was slower, dumber, untrained, and how he didn't have his claws or his adamantium laced bones back then. Another quick cut back to present day when Wolverine's thoughts are interrupted by screams coming from the alley down below. Some local scumbags have an off-duty serviceman and his date at gunpoint. Wolverine jumps down and saves the two, but not before one of the attackers had stabbed the Navyman. He takes the man and his date to the only place in Lowtown Madripoor where he can get help. but not before another quick cut back to the battle royale. Wolverine mentions how the memory of that day hurts more than the actual wounds, and how he never in his life met his match until that day. Sabretooth had his number, and he had it good. Cut back to today, and Wolverine is ushering the serviceman and his date into the local bordello, where he seems to know everyone by name. The madam of the house is really happy to help, and is glad that Wolverine brought the injured man to their service. Her team of ladies is well trained, and they're ready to assist in saving this man's life. While Wolverine steps back and lets the ladies do their job, his old pal, Jessica Drew, the former Spider-Woman, makes an appearance and shows that she's set up her detective agency in the Lowtown Madripoor. Wolverine flashes back yet again, but this time we just see how bruised and bloody and beaten he was. He says, "I ran, no rhyme, no reason. I was beat and beaten. I'd never known fear before. Now I know nothing but." And here, right here, you guys, this is why I love Wolverine. Because in the face of certain death, he goes and he does something like this. He says, "I surprised myself though. Pushed off my face all the way to my feet. Couldn't quit. Wouldn't. Maybe I was beaten, probably going to die, but I wasn't about to quit." Again, I gotta apologize for all the flashes back and forth, guys, but that's just the way the book goes. Patch is back again. He's in present day, and he quickly finds out that Drew and McCabe have set up shop. They're in Madripoor, but they're not arrangement that they have to report to the Pirate Prince of Madripoor. Logan says that he can get them out of it if that's what they really want, but if they choose to stay there, then they have to play by Madripoor rules. He leaves, but once again, he has another flashback back to that epic battle between him and Sabretooth. Sabretooth's best line is here. As Logan lay winded, panting at Sabretooth's feet, Sabretooth says, "You sound like a dog, boy. You want to die like one on your belly or on your feet like a man?" Flashback to today, where we find out that Wolverine had called in a favor from the chief of police to see if Sabretooth was still alive. The chief's investigation had turned up that Sabretooth was dead. Patch didn't believe it, because as it stood, Wolverine was supposed to be dead. As Patch thanked the chief on his way out, the chief says to Patch, "Oh, and by the way, happy birthday." Logan is really surprised and almost to the point of looking afraid. The next page over, we learn that his birthday was the key. Sabretooth thrived on hurting Wolverine on his birthday. He talks about what he learned that day, about fear and about the berserker rage in his soul. His whole being went red with rage. The only thing that mattered was killing Sabretooth, any way that he could, but Wolverine states, "As fast as I was, he was faster. As hard as I hit, he hit harder. Too stubborn, too stupid. I kept coming, and that just made him laugh. I learned fear and rage, and now finally, I learned what it truly meant to be hurt." Flash forward to today, and Wolverine is being stalked by Jessica Drew. Wolverine's keen senses noticed that Jessica was following him. Before she could get the drop on him, he pulled her into an empty warehouse. Jessica reveals that she was following him because she was worried about him. She knows that it's his birthday and that something bad is coming. Before they could finish, however, the two barroom brawlers from the first part of the story came blazing in trying to kill Wolverine for stopping their fight and ruining their barroom bets. The two thugs, through a series of submachine guns, grenade launchers, and flamethrowers, seem to get the best of Wolverine. But we know better. They ride off into the night. Then we cut once again to the fight scene between Sabretooth and Wolverine. Sabretooth, seemingly having Wolverine in the death grip of all death grips, prepares to tear our hero's throat out. When, in the last minute of glory, Wolverine finds that last ounce of strength and pushes both he and Sabretooth over the edge of the mountain into the abyss. We cut once again to present day as Jessica Drew is pulling a fully healed Wolverine out of the water. Wolverine thanks Jessica for taking care of those two thugs, and Jessica is quick to answer, "That wasn't me." They both sit there in silence, wondering what could have happened to the two thugs. Cut to the final scene of the fight. Sabretooth is laying on top of Wolverine after the fall. Sabretooth is the first to get up. "Nice try," he says. "Shame it had to end like this. But when given who we are, what other ending could there be?" Finally, we cut to now. Wolverine arrives at his bar with the barroom brawler's car parked out front. Wolverine decides not to take any chances, and he goes in, claws popped through the front window. Turns out he didn't need to, though. Both of them were just corpses hanging from the ceiling, tied up with big bows. There's a birthday card to go along with them that reads, "Nobody kills you but me, especially today." Wolverine says, "Not if I get you first." And that, my friends, brings issue 10 to a close. Again, here we get a good look at that Wolverine gallery done by Kent Williams. So hope you guys enjoy that. Well, you guys, that brings this episode to a close. Please join me next week when I bring you the first 3 issues of a 6-issue story known as The Gehenna Stone Affair. Thank you guys for sticking with me, and until next time, keep stacking Hella Comics.